We've talked a lot already, Stephen, about tech. So let's dwell on this a little more, because it was great to hear you talking earlier about the business being driven by data, by automation, by cutting edge efficiency. I remember when I saw your product, BillyBot, some years ago now, I believe. I was really impressed by what this was. So why don't you tell everyone what BillyBot is, first of all, and where the idea came from?
So Billy's name came from the program Silk, because Billy was the clerk in Silk. So we thought we would call him Billy, and then Bot, obviously, because he's a robot. So it's Billy the Robot. So I'm a great believer in storytelling. I think if you're going to sell something, you tell a story, and then people buy in a lot easier. So we wanted to do in our software product, where we basically automate a lot of the processes, really silly stuff like, if a solicitor signs up for our newsletter, you want to send them an email out saying, thanks for signing up, here's a copy of our brochure, would you like a clerk to come and meet you? All the marketing type things. Let's take something really very, very straightforward. So we thought, well, you can automate that like you do with a lot of companies at the moment. You go in, you sign up for a newsletter, you get an email back saying you're signed up. And it's not very personal. It's, you're getting what you wanted, but it's not very exciting. So I came up with this idea. Well, why don't we personalize it and create the vision of BillyBot, and then give BillyBot a backstory? So he's a bit cheeky. He's 16, and there's a little bit of a backstory there. And he lives at the data center, which is they turn the lights off at night, so he's not very happy about that. But he's sitting there doing all the automation. So on a Saturday or something, I'll put a tweet out or a LinkedIn post from Billy saying it's really quiet today. There's nobody in the data center. It's really boring. Somebody come on and please book Barrister, so I've got something to do. So we put a backstory behind it. And what that's enabled us to do is then automate a lot of the processes within Chambers. So, for instance, when a booking comes in, Billy will check all 200 diaries and say, through the APIs or whatever, and say, well, we're ignoring 140 because they're in court anyway. There's 60 there. They don't do the right type of work. They wouldn't work for that fee. They wouldn't go to that court. And then Billy presents the answer to the problem to the clerk. So instead of the clerk doing all that donkey work, and Billy, when we deal with it internally, Billy will then send messages to the clerk, just sort of saying, how are you? And, I sent you this case. You haven't done it yet. So I'm gonna squeal on you to your line manager, sort of thing, and we have a bit of fun with it, and it just puts a smile on people's face. So we've tried to just make automation have a little bit of a story, a little bit of fun, really. So
love it. Do you ever get any snobbery from the more
Absolutely.
traditional chambers? Because I love that. I love the automation side. I love the efficiency, but I also love the fun side of this. The disruption of it, and even the more forward-looking chambers that I go into, I think that there are some heads of chambers, some CEO types in those chambers who might sort of turn their noses up a bit at BillyBot. What do you say to them?
They do.
Yeah.
It's our biggest problem in terms of, I think snobbery is the right word. I don't think that's disrespectful. We're out there saying we're doing something different. The solicitor world, as far as, our numbers say, like it. When we go into a solicitor and we just open up the laptop and show them the automation, how it works, they can self-serve anytime they like. As soon as I finish this call, I'm on to another firm who's got 1,400 hearings they want to start putting through from Monday. And we're just doing a 15-minute training session on our system, because you don't need more than 15 minutes to learn how to use it. So, it's the solution. Insurance companies are increasingly saying, well, look, this is what we want. We don't want all that stuff.
No.
We don't even need to come into the temple anymore. This is all being done online. We can email the briefs. I'm saying, why are you emailing briefs? Send it on an API.
Yeah.
So, but as you quite rightly say, if I go into the temple and, I put some sandwich boards on and walked around the temple and said, come join us, people would be very snobby about their brand and the fact that, their chambers is in the temple with no air conditioning, no lift,
And a threadbare carpet.
no disability, award for. Yes.
So I mean, I think we're onto this issue of disrupting a traditional industry there, aren't we? I mean, I must admit, in business, one of the comments I really like hearing, either directly or secondhand, is, "Oh, he'll never pull that off. He'll never be able to do that." Because what someone actually means when they say that is that they couldn't pull it off. So therefore, they can't quite encapsulate the vision. They can't quite see what success would look like. But what visionaries have always done is they've thought, if you think you can or you think they can't, then you're probably right. And innovators find a way, and they don't get worried about gossip or about jealousy or anything like that. And I think, clients and users of any business, they've got to pick their horses. And sometimes it's the end game that they want, rather than all of the fluff from the beginning to that end game. And it sounds to me like that's something that Clark's Room have benefited from.
Yeah, I mean, I always say at this point when this sort of question comes up is, do you know what? It's really hard.
Yeah.
People sort of say, "Oh, it's amazing what you've done and how you've got there." And you say, "Yeah, but you know what? It's really hard." It's been 22 years of 7 days a week, thinking about it all night. You have all the problems that are facing. As I said earlier, my business partner, Harry, long-suffering Harry, I'm on to him relentlessly saying, because I know what I'm trying to achieve. I don't always know how to get there. So it may be a regulatory issue. I'll have to go to the board or Harry and say, "Look, I think we're in difficulty here on regulation, or we're here in difficulty on, we've had to learn how to do digital marketing, which is a dark art, because we fundamentally don't really like losing control of everything we're doing. So although people are third party, we bring them in. If we develop software, we develop it so that we've got our own IP. So we've got everything all in apple pie order, but it's really hard to balance all of the problems that you face when you've even got the marketplace going against you sometimes, and the regulator might not always be. The pupillage academy is an example where you just feel like you're swimming against the tide all the time, but there lies the entrepreneurial wish to get it done. That's the magic bit that drives you every day.
It is, and fair play to you and kudos to you. It's bravery ultimately which drives entrepreneurs forward, because
stupidity.
Well, the market, and particularly a regulated market, will always look after itself. If there's change or disruption in a relatively lucrative market, the regulation becomes the biggest barrier to entrepreneurial entry. I'm a big fan of deregulation. I talk about this quite a lot, deregulating the legal marketplace. Clearly, there are some areas it's quite hard to deregulate. I get the client money is an absolutely sensitive area. But I do think that the idea that simply change should be the subject of regulatory control is bonkers. And ultimately, the people who end up suffering is the end user. So let's think about how that all could work its way through in the future, because you've already grasped technological advancement in Clark's Room. Obviously, we have artificial intelligence and the next stage in technology as a very topical issue at the moment. Everyone's talking about ChatGPT. I know people who can't even switch a computer on who are doing postings on ChatGPT. But let's think about this in terms of what is realistic and what comes next in the legal profession. First of all, just in terms of the environment in which legal services are provided, we know that there's still a lot of practical clunkiness to it. There's courts, there's barristers' chambers, there's solicitors' offices, there's need for face-to-face meetings. Can you see technology providing a solution to that over and above, say, Zoom in the future?
No. Law is a people business. it's such a big, wide subject. If it's all about what people call law, because it's huge. It's a £300 billion industry. So, if you're talking about, will somebody be writing your will? Will you go on to ChatGPT and write the will, and will it be admissible, and will it do everything for you? It's not, obviously not ready yet, but is that going to happen? Almost certainly.
Yeah.
If you want a contract with a builder to, put a kitchen in, and you just want a draft contract, it'll all be there. It'll all be free on the internet and work. But if you've got a really, lawyers are good at law. So I am an eternal optimist. I preface what I'm about to say by that. So barristers love law. So what will happen, I think, is a lot of the rubbish that barristers do. I mean, I don't like using the word rubbish, because all work is good work.
No, it's the heavy lifting, though, isn't it, you're referring to?
The less complicated, lower paid work that they do because it's available will probably drop away. So, some of the interesting cases we get, and, where there's highly difficult ethical questions you're solving for problems, or complex tax problems or whatever, I doubt that that's people trust in people. So you're going to want to see your barrister go through your case and have the confidence that they've presented you with the answer. And that might be delivered in a much more efficient way, but with tools to help you. But I don't see fundamentally, the barrister's not going to be replaced by BillyBot. He's not going to become a barrister.
No, and I think I agree with you. The roles will just evolve, won't they? As you say, AI, I think, will do more of the heavy lifting. And I think the role of the lawyer will evolve more into perhaps the designers of the AI, but also to focus time on more strategic advisory work, more technical work, maybe being able to take on more work and be more lucrative through better use of tech. But I tell you, the area I'm ever so interested in is the metaverse technology. Now, of course, the metaverse technology per se doesn't provide those sort of AI solutions from a procedural perspective, but it's back to this issue in which the environment in which legal services are delivered. And you are quite right that the law, like lots of industries, is a people business. And the thing I believe about the metaverse is, even with the technology as it is now, it is possible to have a virtual experience bordering on presence. And we know the downsides of a Zoom are that whilst it's very convenient, it's been a godsend in the last few years, it doesn't give you that visceral experience of presence. Whereas I think, in terms of where technology is going to go in the metaverse, we'll be able to get the positives of both a virtual experience, but one in which intertwines much closer with the physical world. So I think it will be possible in the future to have metaverse courtrooms and mediations and client meetings which have the convenience of the virtual world, but whilst enjoying that visceral experience of presence.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I think about technology, I thought about what I think is the technological solution first, and then I try to step sideways and do that journey as a human and think about what does that look like. Trying to force clients onto a website to fill out a form is difficult sometimes. You need to give them a phone number, then you can use the technology. But so in the metaverse, I think it is a fascinating thing, and we are starting to think quite a bit more about this at the moment, because the way I describe it, I love pictures and analogies, but the way I describe it is, have a think about how you would buy a jumper or a shirt, right? So you traditionally go into the town and go into a shop and have a look and try it on. What you're now doing is buying it on Amazon. What do you really want to do? You want a combination of the two. You really want to buy that shirt now, know it's going to be delivered tomorrow morning. Well, what you'd really like to do is go in the shop, try it on, and ask the shopkeeper, if they've got it in blue, rather than go through a tick box form. So whether it be buying legal services, which I don't think the journey is really very different. I know I get a lot of criticism from people saying, well, hold on a minute, we're not widgets, and I go, sorry, it's a product. It's professional service, it's law, it's technology, but it's a product. So the buying journey is We are, in a strange way, we're quite lucky that the buying purchase of a legal services is more than, quite often it is a distress purchase. So someone really has to buy that legal service. They're being sued, they're getting divorced, they're whatever. So if they can put the goggles on or whatever it is, because I don't know if it'll be goggles, I'm not sure people will be wearing goggles, but in your glasses, it's superimposed or whatever. And you can walk down into the high street and you can look at 6 or 7 firms of solicitors. And there's this really posh firm, there's a little firm, there's a family firm, and you sort of go in and have a look around and you say, yeah, this is the sort of firm. Oh, there's their price list up on the wall. Oh, that's a bit expensive. I'll go next door. And I think, this is all pretty new, but I don't see why that's not going to happen, because it just seems pretty obvious. And the young people that are coming up through that have spent all their years and hours on the day and night gaming, they don't see it as being that weird anyway. We do, because I speak for myself. I'm getting on a bit, but